Hello. Welcome to today's training. I'm so excited to dive in. Today, we're going to talk about the content blueprint. This is my training, my teaching for you on how to create a scalable content system that drives measurable growth and ROI. Buckle up. We're going to get going. If you are a CEO or growth leader, you've heard it a million times before. You need to create content, right? That's everyone you know has probably said that, especially if they're in marketing. They also probably tell you things like competitors are doing it. Yeah, you got to, I mean, your competitors are doing it. You got to do this too. Yet I also know that most leaders I know that I've worked with, that I'm friends with, also struggle with content. They struggle. It's hard, and they struggle with content and ROI the most. Um, Basically, if you've ever tried to create content, you feel one of these things. It's time consuming, it's expensive, it's a black hole of money, just throwing money down a black hole, and no ROI, or really delayed ROI, or unclear ROI, right? This is how it feels, especially if you don't do it correctly. So I'm here today because I want to help you fix it. Let's fix this content conundrum and figure out how to drive results. And I'm going to do that by giving you what I call a content blueprint. And this is our blueprint, our framework, our proven process that I've used for over a decade, and that we use with our clients to drive ROI, to drive measurable results, to drive growth and revenue and leads through content. So what the content blueprint that I'm going to share with you today is going to do is it's going to help you turn content into revenue with a proven high impact framework. Yeah, sounds good, right? I'll take that. This blueprint will help you cut costs and expand your reach by repurposing content efficiently. It's going to help you scale the business, scale the marketing, scale all your efforts with a content system that drives ROI and authority. And also, it's going to help you outpace competitors with a content engine that dominates your industry. I have seen each of these things come true, and I'm going to explain how in this training. Plus, I'm going to give you case studies so you can see some proof. All right, what we're going to do today is we're going to go over a few things. These things are, first, we're going to talk about some mindset shifts, just a few of them, just to help you reframe content as a strategic growth engine that it can be. You can have crappy content, or you can have great content. And you can spend your time creating content, but you're going to have one or the other. So I want to teach you how to create great content and how to think about it in the way that will produce that. The other one is how to avoid costly mistakes. What are the misconceptions that stall content success? Basically that are those barriers to thinking, to behaving, what you hear. People say a lot of stuff. How do you sort through that? Breakthrough barriers. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to answer the toughest content challenges, some of the biggest questions, some of the most hairy questions, some of the most, road blocking questions. We're going to break through them like a brick wall, and let's go. We're going to execute with clarity. Okay. I'm going to help you execute with clarity. You're going to walk out of this training with actionable next steps to drive measurable results. I will share at the end a way that you can work with me to get my help if you want that. There's no pressure. You do not have to want that. And I do not have to help you. You will be able to walk out of this training with enough clarity and actionable steps and reflection clarity to be able to take those next steps on your own with your team, if you would like to, or with a separate team. That said, would love to work with you if it works out, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, next, what can you expect from me? I'm showing up here. I'm doing this training. What can you expect to get from me? Well, first thing is no BS, just impact. I'm a CEO as well of Structure and founder. If you are a CEO and growth leader, we are going to jam because I'm a no BS guy. I'm gonna shoot it straight, and I'm gonna give you clear, direct insights without fluff. I'm also gonna tackle the truth. We're going to enter the danger. I'm going to address the biggest challenges that would be holding you back as a leader and as a company. We're not going to talk about vanity metrics and super granular tactics here. We're going to deal with the big problems. Okay. I'm going to give you a proven process, not just theory. These aren't just ideas that I would like to implement someday or that I've heard other people talk about from a nice conference that I went to last week. No, this is stuff I've done for over a decade that I've seen real world results with, and it works. People do talk about it, but it's because it works and they're making it work too. And so proven process, clarity in action. Again, expect from me that you're going to be able to walk out of this training with a concrete step to move forward. You get what you pay for, but I hope that this creates more value than you would have imagined a training could have created. And that's my goal, is to go all in with you and give you everything I've got today. I'm going to give you the best ideas. All right, here's who I am. Brief overview. If you've never met me or heard of me, my name is Simon Villeneuve, and I am the CEO and founder of Structure. We are a digital marketing growth agency. We kind of bridge the gap between IT and digital marketing and operational consulting. And so we really look at marketing problems less isolated and more integrated with the whole company and the business ecosystem, so we can drive impact across all of the functions of the business. All right, more on that later, or we can have another conversation. But I've been at this for about 15 years now. Throughout the time, I've managed SaaS content marketing. I've directed a creative agency content team. I started as a copywriter and built a team of 30 people in about a year and a half before I left, and we were crushing. I then left and built and sold an online course company, which was crazy awesome. Created all the curriculum, all the content, launched it, got the first 100 customers, and then decided to take my learnings and cutting my teeth as an entrepreneur and as a business leader, and build Structure and share everything I knew with our clients. And so that's what I've done. And, honestly, if we look at a single thread along that line, what's been the constant thread along that is one, growth, high growth, high results, and content. It's been all about content. So using content, I've helped scale under-tech companies across private equity, manufacturing, transportation, generating lots of money for clients, hundreds of millions of dollars. And we are, our processes and our systems in this blueprint works for companies really of any. I've seen it work across the board. That said, we've really seen a lot of traction, in under-tech companies that are, basically they're how do I say it? Their markets are growing, and they may be lagging behind in the digital space. And there's a lot of opportunity there to capitalize on and have some really big wins. I am passionate about accelerating digital growth and ROI, not just activity. I'm gonna get a drink. Got something stuck. Pardon me. My value here, what I believe, is build over busy. That's really the thing to remember, is that I'm not here just to do activity and to send numbers and do quantity work. I'm here to do quality work, to drive results and build momentum. And that's very important for me and my team. And that's what we do with content. And that's what I'm teaching you how to do with your content and your team. Lastly, and I will move on into the content and the topic at hand, Structure exists. Our company exists. I exist because I believe business is personal, and we partner with leaders to help them think bigger and achieve more. So you should expect from me, and what you're going to get from me is not only consulting, ideas, proven frameworks, ways to grow, but you're going to get pushed. You're going to get pushed ahead. You're going to get pushed forward. I'm just as much of a coach as I am a consultant. And so buckle up, buttercup, or grow or go. It's your choice. You don't have to watch this if you don't want to, but if you want to grow, if you want to push the boundaries, if you want to develop and you want to crush it, let's go. All right, I'm going to jump in right with the mindsets. I call these $100 million mindsets. This is what you have to see in order to crush it in content. So the question that I want you to ask yourself, the big question as we enter this conversation is this: how can we push the envelope to create more and better content than we ever thought possible and build our brand and finally drive measurable growth? There's a lot of things in there. Push the envelope, more and better content than you thought possible. So we're going to go big or go home. Build the brand, drive growth. 3 mindsets. We got to go from thinking about posting or a post to process. We got to go from thinking about content and as viral to value. And we have to go from thinking about content as a cost to content as an investment. These shifts are going to change everything. So the first one is post to process. It's common to think we need to get a post out today. We got to publish a blog post. We got to publish an Instagram post. We got to publish a LinkedIn post. We got to get that podcast out. Why don't we send a video? Whatever. And it becomes this daily thing that it's almost reactionary or ad hoc or just but you can't scale like that, and you can't impact like that, and you can't measure like that. In order to crush content and get results that you want from the content, you have to think differently, and you have to think not how can we get one post out today right now. You have to start thinking about how can we get 10 posts out today. And I want you to see that shift in thinking. Because the second way it has a lot of implications. Scale. In order to get 10 posts out, you can't just sit at your computer and heads down and grind out 10 posts. I mean, you can, but that's going to take all your time, and you're not going to be able to get anything else done. What you have to do is you have to create a process, and you have to delegate, and you have to empower, and you have to repurpose, and you have to get smart. This is the key. We gotta don't think about content as working hard, but think about it as working smart. Okay, let's move on. I could spend all day on that one topic. Viral to value. You gotta make a switch from thinking, when will this get easier, to how do we get better? You see, when we think about virality, you think about social media, you think, man, if I just got a post that just took off, it would all get easier. It would get better. We would have more followers or more eyeballs or more opportunities, or it would just skyrocket us. That's what we need. We need to get that viral thing. The reality is that might happen and that could help. But the honest truth is when you're looking at that, you're looking for the silver bullet. That's what that's called. And I'm going to call it that way in social you're looking for a silver bullet, a unicorn that you might get lucky. And that would be great. And I hope you do, but you may not, right? How can you engineer luck? And that's through value. That's through getting better. That's through creating better content that people want more, that is more effective, that the platforms want to promote, and that builds. 3, from cost to investment. We got to stop thinking about content's expensive and got to think content is leverage. And I'm going to explain what that means, but content is an investment that you put in and you put inputs and it builds, and eventually it's going to give you exponential asymmetrical output. It will. Just like stocks in the stock market, if it goes well or whatever, it's like you are going to put consistent inputs in and you're going to get outsized outputs out, right? And so that's not an expense because it's not a one-to-one. It's a one-to-many. It's a one-to-exponential. And so we have to be thinking about your costs this year, this month, this week with content, time, money, energy as building leverage that will give you something bigger in the end. All right. How do we do this? How do we do this? All these things are great. Cool mindsets, Simon. Awesome. I love them. That's helpful. I can start thinking that way and I can see how that can help. But like, how do you do that? All right, here's what we're going to do. I call this the 3C content cascade. Get ready. We got some C's flying around here, but it's good. All right. We can just call it the content cascade if that's easier. There's 3 levels of content that we are going to break down and use in this content blueprint system. First is core content. We've got core content. Second, we've got catalyst content. And third, we've got connection content. Core content is deep, authoritative content that establishes expertise. Catalyst content is repurposed assets, repurposed content that drive action and conversion. And notice I wrote assets here because these aren't just posts. These aren't just, these are assets. And I want you to start thinking about your content as assets. 3 is the connection content. That's high frequency content that expands reach. All right, let's go deeper. I just want to share this quote too. This is great. This is from Gary Vee, and this sets the stage for where we're going. Gary Vaynerchuk, the founder of VaynerMedia, Wine Library. You've probably heard him if you're in the growth space at all, or in marketing. And he's written a lot of books on content and social. But he has this quote, and he says, when you have something at the top, something speaking of content, something great, something big, use it as a source to create other content. And that's how we're going to break this down. So I'm going to go back real quick. What we do here is you're going, and I'm going to explain this, but this is a kind of a pyramid or a building on visual here, because at the top you have the core content, and that's going to be one piece of content that is going to trickle down and create more content. The second tier is the catalyst content. That's a level down where you take the core and you break it down into other types of content. Not as many pieces, but catalyst content. And then the connection content are all those, you have more, and that's why it showcases more. And it really just trickles down into all types of content there. Let me explain a little bit more clearly. Let's break this down. Core content is deep, long form, high value content. This is in-depth knowledge that can be broken down into smaller assets in the future. These are things like YouTube videos, podcasts, stage talks or webinars, or training videos. This right here that I'm doing right now is a training video, and this is core content that our team will actually use to break down into all other types of content for different kinds of purposes, right? For a lot of things. But it all starts with this first piece of core content. What are other examples of this would be like a stage talk. You know, if you have a leader or you personally are giving talks or presenting on stage, that's core content. And if you're not recording that and saving it and bringing a videographer with you, you're probably leaving a lot on the table, because that could be basically leveraged to create more in the future. Long form YouTube videos. This is like Joe Rogan podcast. People do this all the time. Joe Rogan does a 2 to 3 hour podcast video where he then breaks that down into all kinds of other videos. Those are great core content pieces. Second is catalyst. This is the foundation, extending the foundation or the core content. What you're going to do is you're going to reformat the insights into highly valuable written content. So this would be taking that core content and writing blog articles based on, or reformatting, curating blog articles based on the core content. Breaking that down into LinkedIn and Medium articles, because LinkedIn has an article feature where you can post articles. I'm not talking about posts, I'm talking about articles. And Medium also is a platform or channel where you can break content down onto and get more eyeballs and more reach. And they have great SEO authority, by the way. And so if you can reformat your content on there, it's going to have a better chance of getting seen than it is going to be on your own site. Although you also want it on your own site. We can talk more about that later. Email newsletters. That's another one. Distribute this Catalyst content to your email list, or Quora posts. That's getting a little tactical, but that's a channel that's more of a discussion or a forum type of situation where you can share some not long form, but medium form thoughts on there and start conversations. Third, we have that connection content. This is really high frequency, engaging social content. This is used to increase visibility, engagement, and create a sense of community with really bite-sized shareable snacks. That's like, I think that's a good word for it. It's not like the full meal, right? I think that your core content is like your filet mignon, like, meal. You've got the wine and the filet, and you've got everything, but this is more like snacks, quick bites, but you can snack on that. Okay. I'm going to take this way too far. You're welcome. Let's keep going. I'll try not to get off track. Reels, shorts, and TikTok clips. These are these bite-sized pieces of content. Instagram and LinkedIn posts, Twitter threads, and carousel posts. These are all connection content that can be expressed off of your core content. And at this point, I hope this is helpful. This is the framework. You might be like, hey, I need some examples, or like, what do you mean? What does this look like? Well, let's dive into that. I've got a case study for you to show you a little bit more about how this looks. This is a manufacturing client of ours, Western Interlock. We have done this content blueprint with them for how long has it been? Over 3 years now. And we've created dozens, I think we might be nearing 60 YouTube videos with them potentially. And this is just a screenshot of a YouTube video that we made. This one is really, it's about 12 minutes long, and the length doesn't really matter as much as we created a long form video that covers a in-depth breakdown of one of their products, the Turf Stone paver. And we scripted it, we planned it, we filmed it. This is Colin here. He teaches in it. And it's a very great video. You should go check it out if you want to see an example. But anyway, it's a long form piece of core content. Then what we did is we actually took that and we broke it down into blog posts on their website. And here's just another screenshot. I took this real quick just as an example. But if you go to their website and you search Turfstone, you can see we've got a couple blog posts that we've written that is content based on that video. So we've taken the video and we've repurposed it and curated it and processed it, not created brand new content, but we curated the content that we already spent so much time and effort to film and just reformatted it into a different format, which would be Catalyst content here on the blog. Now, this, people find it on YouTube. This one has, doesn't say how many views. They've got 7.74 subscribers, which has all been building since we started posting videos. Some of their videos have up near 1 million views now about hardscape. It's pretty incredible. But anyway, the blog posts as well, they are driving traffic to the website, and you'll see the results pretty soon on that. Additionally, we've got YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. So you can see there's a lot to look at here, but we took clips from that video, as well as clips from that video, and we split them into smaller clips that are gaining views. So we took one video, split it into clips, and you can see how, 270 views, 640 views. We've got 2.4 thousand views, 1.7 thousand views, 1.6 thousand views. We've taken it and exponentially got more eyeballs on the same content just by cutting it up and repurposing it. So some of the results that we've seen is in the last 36 months, by doing this content blueprint process and creating these 3 types of content for them, they have seen over 847% new traffic growth in the last 36 months. That's going from 243 website visitors to 2.3 million. That's a lot of eyeballs. The town I grew up in was only 20,000 people. And so when you think about that, this is a lot of people that are seeing this content that were never before. They've got 138% new lead growth in the last 12 months. That's incredible results, driving $2 million, over $2 million in new contracts, just from this content program. And it's really been the catalyst to help them break through into the B2C landscape market. So, yes, content's time consuming. Yes, content's expensive. It's a black hole. There's no ROI. Well, kind of, except this is this is a lot of ROI right here. And this is a lot of value. And this is a lot of building. So it does work if you do it right. So what I want you to see here, if you haven't already noticed it, is the content effort and what this looks like in terms of cost, time, money, energy to do this model. You could say, wow, that's a lot of content, right? Yeah, it is, but here's how it works. One input. This is a system that we put an input in. One interview, video, or training. Then we get an output. And what's the output from that one lead domino content? One interview, we get that interview, video, and training, but then we can publish across 10 platforms. And then between the 3 types of content, we can create 100 pieces of content from that one core piece. And you can see hundreds of thousands of views. You know, if it goes big, millions of views based on that content alone. And it really started with one thing, and that's that one core content, that lead domino piece. So what the content blueprint is, and what you have to create to build this content machine, is you need strategy and a system. You can't have a strategy without a system. If you have strategy, you've got a great plan, but you have no way of getting it done. If you have a system, you're just operationalizing and automating and improving efficiency on something that may not have a great plan to begin with. You need both. And so what we do is we have a strategy and a system. Our system, well, let me back up. The strategy is what I just kind of broke down, and that's the content. What did I call that? We're going to go back because I need to know. Content cascade. I blanked for a second. That's the content cascade, is the strategy. Now, what's the system? The system here is the acceleration loop. This is what we call our content system. And this is our system for really any digital growth. And it goes through 4 A's, and it's alignment, activation, amplification, and acceleration. Alignment is where you define the brand's content pillars, messaging, and SEO strategy. Activation is where you set up systems, AI tools, and content calendar. Amplification is where you execute on the creation, the publishing, and the repurposing strategy. And acceleration is where you analyze, optimize, and refine based on performance data. It's a process, and it looks something like this. This is why we call it the acceleration loop, is because it's actually an ongoing process that starts with alignment and goes through, and you reevaluate this as you go through certain monthly, quarterly, and annual cycles. So it really matches up with a kind of a traditional operating system or strategic planning framework. And so the alignment process is really digital strategy. That's what it is. That's a fancy term for it. Activation is really about your digital presence. It's really setting up the infrastructure. Amplification is about the content. It's about amplifying the content out across those digital presence platforms aligned with your digital strategy. And acceleration is really optimization of that content and that system and that strategy to get more out of what you're doing. So let me break these down and what really goes into each of these components of the system, because it's important to know. And if you're wanting to run this system and this strategy, and you're wanting to run a content blueprint or leverage the content blueprint for your company, you're going to need these pieces in place as a part of the system. You're going to need your 10-3-1 strategic goals. This is what we call it structure. And what that means is your 10-year vision, your 3-year mission, and your 1-year goals. You've got to know what you're going after as a company. You don't just create content to create content. That's stupid. That's a waste of time and money, right? You're doing it to build something, to get a result of some sort, make a certain amount of money, or develop a certain amount of leads, or build a certain brand, or there's some sort of goal, vision, mission behind that. You got to know what that is. That's really important to align with. Vision, mission, and values. And so vision and mission we talked about. The values is really important too, because how you show up as a brand in the market with your content must align with your values. Yeah. And how you run your system must align with your values. And so if anybody is going to consume your content or create your content, they're going to align with that process or that content based on the value framework behind it. They're going to know, is this for me? And it's really important to have those and align those. And it's not necessarily a direct communication of them in your content. That's not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they build up the infrastructure and the system and the intent and the feel. And so as you create with those people, it's coming out naturally. Overflow. All right, next. Brand and messaging framework. It's important to align on the character, personality, words to use, to not use for the brand. The phrases to use, the value propositions. I've got a whole list that I can do a training, actually should do a training on the brand and messaging process and framework and how to do that. But that is a very important key asset that writers, AI tools, anyone will use to create or curate content and will keep you aligned and moving forward. You need a content strategy and you need a plan. How are we going to create content? What's the way we're going to do that? And what are the types of content we're going to create? So the content cascade is part of the content strategy. It's a very high level view of the content strategy, but you got to dive deeper too. And when we do this, we actually dig in deeper, and I don't want to go too deep in the weeds with you now, but we basically create a 6 content pillars for every brand that's based on the main products or services that they offer. And then we create a rotating list of questions and topics based on those 6 pillars that we create content around. And it's basically a cycle that we run through. And so you want to know, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to create content around? And what questions are we going to answer? And what is that content calendar that we're going to have? We'll talk more about the content calendar later, but in order to build a content calendar, you need content pillars and you need a cadence. So additionally, you need processes and workflows. What are the handoffs? How does work get done? How do we create? How do we curate? How do we publish? And what does that look like? All right, next, activate. This is where you actually are aligned. Your team is aligned on the strategy and the system. Now you can do work. You can do action. You can create and optimize platforms. If you need a, whatever it is, a brand Instagram account, and you don't have one, you create one. That's when you do this. Or you look at the accounts, you say, we have a LinkedIn account and we're going to use LinkedIn, and we really need to beef that out with more information, better pictures. Start there. You need a content calendar. You take the topics that you're going to cover, the strategy, and you build out that for a quarter, a month at a minimum, a quarter, or a year if you're willing to plan that far ahead. And you look at what is the content we're going to create during that time, like post titles, types, etc. You're going to need equipment for capture. You're going to need people to help. This is where you kind of activate those systems. And so, if you're looking to do trainings or you're going to record YouTube content, maybe you need to build a studio. Maybe you need microphones. Maybe you need cameras. I mean, there's things that you might need to do that. And that's important at this step. And software and subscriptions for editing, for AI tools, you probably already have those. But for publishing, all that stuff needs to be in place and ready to go so that you can move ahead and start creating content and amplifying it on the infrastructure that you built. This is an example screenshot here of just of our content calendar. It's overwhelming. You don't have to worry about understanding it. But what we do with our clients, we actually have a template that we use and we'll share with you. If you want it, feel free to comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, or if we're in a, what do we call it? A discovery call. And we can supply you with this for free. Be happy to. But this basically looks at the calendar, the topics, the video files. This is how we break down every piece of content that goes out. And so there's clarity and consistency. Okay, amplify. The third step in this process, this is where we really create the content. You create the foundation, the core content. You repurpose the bridge and atrium content. This is we've renamed these. This is an old slide, unfortunately. So you repurpose the the catalyst and the connection content. And then you engage with your audience. And this is just where you do the activity of the content creation, curation, repurposing. This is the doing the content. And the fascinating part is that most of the time when we're looking at launching a content program, we just jump into the amplify step. We just start creating. But notice there are 2 steps before amplify, and there's actually a 4th step after amplify. And we take this 4-step process that's proven and that works, and we do 1. And then we say, why is it not working? Why is it time consuming? Why does it suck? Why am I not growing? Why is it a black hole? It's because it's a process problem. It's because we're not doing the entire process. We're making it very hard on ourselves. All right, that's a soapbox. I'll give up. Accelerate. This says 3. It should be 4. The point here, don't get caught up on the numbers. The point here is the content, is that acceleration is the last step in the acceleration loop. And that's where you measure KPIs and metrics. You know what's working and what's not. And you do that on as a CEO, you're going to have to limit yourself on how granular you get. And you want to empower your team to measure, right? The people who are creating and curating content, your creative directors or your content managers or your social media managers, they need to look at per post levels on how the content's performing. And yes, I said per post. How many eyeballs did that see? Why did the one on Thursday get more than the one on Wednesday? And what are we learning? They need to be there. The marketing director or whoever's leading the team needs to be looking at per platform level. How are the platforms performing? Is Facebook performing better than Instagram, right? And that's like a strategist level. What you need to be looking at is the company level, which is how are these posts and platforms really driving results up to the company, which is like leads, traffic, sales, conversion rates, those kind of things. And you want to stay at the results level. I will show you a dashboard in just a second, but you're going to want to accelerate feedback loops through these teams. You're going to want to delegate. You're going to want to make sure there's pruning and reinvesting happening, and potentially even incorporating paid content into boosting the best performing content. What we do, and this is a screenshot of our DGS dashboard. We create one of these for every client, and and we track at this level. But you can see at the top we have company goals. Circle it up here. That's nice. Company goals, and you can see some of the things we're measuring: sales impact, conversion rate, cost per lead, lead growth rate, and leads generated. So we know on a month-to-month basis where those numbers are and where they're falling and increasing. But then our other leaders are looking at the platforms like Instagram, Facebook. It keeps going down into all the other platforms where we look and see what's performing well and what's performing not. You can see in this case that Instagram is struggling. I mean, some of these are marked with like, hey, they're not working well. We need to watch this. Check marks mean good. Obviously, red stop signs mean bad. But you can see Facebook seems to be performing a lot better. And so we have those insights. And what we've been doing actually is we would reinvest money into what's working and pull money out of what's not working so we get the most bang for our buck. All right. Back to that template. Love to share this. I will create a training on this. I also would love to share this template with anyone if you want it. Sign up for our discovery call or comment below, and we'll make sure to get you a copy of this for use for your own team. And if you work with us, we will build it out for you for sure. All right, next, let's address misconceptions. Misconceptions. One of the misconceptions here is we need to create unique content for every platform. No, you don't. You don't need to create unique content for every platform. You need to curate unique content for every platform. So how users behave on Instagram versus LinkedIn versus Facebook versus TikTok versus blogs versus podcasts are all very different. So each platform is different and has its own nuances and contexts. And so you do need to curate content for those unique audiences, platforms, and contexts. Gary Vee calls this PAC. It's called platform audience content, and he matches the platform to the audience to the content, and that's a unique process. but you do not need a unique exact piece of content for every platform. You can follow the content cascade and create the core content that can then be broken down and repurposed with slight nuances and maybe wording, or overlays in video or text for each platform. Posting more equals more growth. I mean, inputs matter. So this is how this is true, is that posting more gives the platforms more data and more content to review or to process and to match up with audiences over time. So the more they know about you, the more they can share about you. That is true. However, the platforms don't just magically reward you for more growth if you post more because you are special or something. It's not brownie points. But it does, if you do show up more, you're feeding more content in the system and you're giving it more to share. And so it will. And so you've seen people do like, if you've ever heard of Alex Hormozy, he preaches about this as well, which is just literally quantity at some level makes the difference. And so you can't deny it. But I think it's just maybe a fine point, fine edge is like, it doesn't just equal more to growth. The other side of this too is if you put so much effort into posting quantity over quality, your quality could suffer if you don't have the systems or the process or the capability or capacity. That's the word I'm looking for, to really create great content. So creating less but better is a better option than more but worse, if that makes sense. Because what you really want to do is stack great content on each other and build authority over time. All right. We could continue to break that down over time. But SEO is separate from content strategy. No, SEO is part of content strategy. Yeah. SEO is a very key part of a content strategy umbrella, and it needs to be considered in your content strategy as a whole. I would say that when you think SEO, usually just like, Nike, you think of shoes, or McDonald's and you think about cheeseburgers or the M or whatever. I mean, the point is like when you think SEO, you think Google and you think blog posts probably, or you think a website, and those are true and those are part of SEO. But I would also say that the platforms, especially today, are very much SEO driven. They're algorithmic, and especially content platforms like YouTube, Pinterest are very SEO driven, and keywords and content topics and descriptions and titles and captions and all that stuff really matters. And the key, I mean, even you in Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, they all are basically their own search engines that people go to find stuff. Like people use Instagram to find restaurants, to find products, to find fitness programs, all kinds of stuff all the time. And so SEO is integrated and an integral part of the content strategy. And at every level on every platform, you need to consider it. We tried this already, but it didn't work. Yeah, and that may be true. And maybe it didn't work for you. When it's done well and you have the strategy and the system in place, and I've seen it work every time. I think a better way of said it could be, if we tried this already, but it didn't work yet, is a common thing because it takes time. Content takes time to get good at, to stack, to see results on, to evaluate and improve and optimize. And it's not, there are ways to get quick wins. We'll talk about that, I think, in a minute, but it's really more about putting in the reps and of giving it the time it deserves, and it will stack and give you big returns. You got to think about it like investing. And that's why I say it's not, you can't think of it about as a cost. You have to think about it as an investment. And investments build over time. So yeah, that's what I would say. And I think, like I mentioned earlier with the acceleration loop, like if you just jump in at step 4 and say, we tried step 4, we tried amplifying content and it didn't work. Well, you missed 3 of the 4 steps. And that's also why it doesn't work. So, I would love to hear a case if you're like, hey, we did this top to bottom. We did all 4 steps in the acceleration loop perfectly. And it's been 3 years and we're exhausted. Let's chat, because I've never seen that. I've never seen that, but I would like to hear about that and uncover what is going on. And you can say that doesn't work in our industry. Like I've never seen that to be true. So let's keep going. AI will replace content creators. Yes. Actually, that's not a misconception. That's nuanced. A nuanced thought. AI will replace content creators. Like if you're a copywriter, if you're an editor, if you are a social media writer, like yes, you've already been replaced, and you should start looking for another job or or elevate your skill set, because you're expensive. That's really the truth. But if you are a strategist, if you're a creative, like if you're a leader, you're not going to be replaced. You are going to use AI like a tool to constantly create new and better things. And so when we look at this question, we say AI will replace creators. AI will really never replace unique human creativity, because we will always outpace the tool. Is the tool more efficient? Absolutely. Is the tool maybe more intellectual or smart or have less human downsides? Absolutely. But it will never replace creators. We were just talking about this last night at dinner with basketball players, and AI. And it's like, there's no, I mean, like during a basketball game, NBA game, these guys out there are creative machines. They're processing information, they're making moves, they're passing, they're shooting, they're dribbling, they're spinning, they're creating magic out there. And what they do is, hey, it's a timeout. I've even seen them on the bench. If you haven't, it's really kind of funny. They'll like at the end of the game, if they're really trying to win, they have laptops and tablets over there. They'll sit down, they'll pull open a play, they'll watch plays, they'll use Chat GPT, who knows? But they're using tools like AI and technology to fuel their game and help them create at a higher level. And so that's what you need to think about, is how can I create at a high level and use AI to improve the process? All right. Content marketing is only for B2C brands. Lie. False. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is for all brands. It's not just for Pepsi. It's not just for, who else? Nike. It's for everyone. And honestly, we have seen some of the most success with B2B brands is content can play a big role. And, content does different things, right? It drives traffic. It helps dominate search engines. But it's also does this other thing that we as CEOs or leaders often overlook, which is education, training, and, gaining new capabilities and skills, which creates other efficiencies later. And so I've seen our content that we create have effects in ways that we didn't expect. Maybe we wanted to drive leads and traffic. And what it ended up doing was the sales guys used it down the line in their sales process to convert more customers or to educate partnerships and relationships on what they do and who they are, that actually turned out to create bigger deals or opportunities down the road. And so content marketing is about a lot of things and can be used in a lot of ways for all types of brands. Our customers aren't buying from social media. There's a chance that if they're Amish and they live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and they drive a horse and buggy, that they aren't buying from social media. So if that's your audience and you're trying to sell to them, you might have trouble potentially if you're trying to use social media. However, I've heard that they hide TVs and computers. So they might actually buy in secret. Okay. All jokes aside, I'm going to be sarcastic forever. It's fun. Okay. The truth is that your customers, pretty much no matter who you are as a company, what you sell, what you do, use media and are informed by media. And the trick is knowing which platforms they are on and being in those places. I also think being omnipresent across all platforms will help you grow if you have the capacity, but that often takes time to build that. But the truth is they go on YouTube to find stuff. And even if they're going on YouTube to figure out how to fix a gasket in their head gasket in their old, beater car that they're trying to keep running for their 17-year-old son, and maybe they do something random, like they own a private equity fund, they're going to go on YouTube on the weekend to find some stuff out. And if you're there and they know who you are and they know who they are, they might match you up. And the content you create, the ads you run, will influence their buying decisions. And so it's not as direct one-to-one as you might think. It's more about influence and omnipresence. But the really the truth is that they are. And they may not buy on YouTube, and so we have to also think about, like, they will buy using any method that exists. I mean, even on Instagram, I'm going to stop here in a second, but on this point, but even on Instagram, companies sell through chat. There's a guy named Dan Martell. He talks about this a lot. And I've even experienced this, is like they sell through chat. And so they'll promote their products and services on Instagram, and then they'll chat with you or reach out on chat, or maybe you'll message with them in DMs and they use that as a sales channel. They actually use it like you would normally use a phone, or you would use a form on a website, or even a chat on a website, which is kind of, a newer thing in the last, 5+ years. They use the social media platforms as sales communication channels. So customers are buying, and it's more about figuring it out. All right, next questions. Woo, we're rolling here. How do I know what content to create? Yeah, great question. This is really in the alignment phase when you're creating your content strategy, and you think about this. The process we use is we create those 6 content pillars that all content is created around, and then we build a cadence around that. And those 6 content pillars are literally the 6 best-selling products in your catalog. It's really not complicated. What do we talk about? Okay, start with, what do you sell? What services are you offering? Those need to be your content pillars. And then you can break down topics, questions, ideas around those products and services and around those offerings until you die. It's really never ending. But that's what you want to do, because you want all the content out there that comes to really come back to what you sell. And so that's how you know what content to create. Otherwise, like if you're wondering, well, do we do videos or posts or images or carousels or what platforms? Those are great questions. And, you can kind of probably do some desktop research on that. But another great way I always recommend is to actually ask your customers, where do you consume content? Where do you go for fun? Where do you go to buy? And that could be anything from Fortune magazine, Time magazine, to Instagram, to forums and threads on the internet. I mean, it can be anywhere, but you want to know, where are they? What channel should we be on? Okay, we kind of answered this. I would say, other than asking your customers, I would say that what channels do you want to be on? What channels do you think you could crush on, right? If you're on, like, if you're, you have to think about, if we're going to be on TikTok, we have to create video, right? So you may have limitations if you say, hey, we want to start with text-based posts and content. Well, blogging, threads, X, LinkedIn, like those are going to be your places. Forums, those are going to be great places. If you were like video, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and put that on your blog and podcast, and like these are always. So you think about what format can you produce, or do you want to produce? What kind of formats and channels and stuff do your customers consume on? That'll give you a good start. I would lastly say, like, don't worry about doing too much at one time. I would say if you're just starting, pick a platform and crush that platform and get that platform going before you try to disperse too much, because it'd be better to create 10 posts on LinkedIn every day than it would be to create one post on 10 channels that 9 of them suck. Right. It'd be better to condense your efforts and focus them in one place to build that momentum and then expand from there. How often should we post? It's a great question. It really depends on how much you can get from your core content. So if your core content can be split into 30 pieces, you've either got a month and you post once a day, or you've got a day and you post 30 times, and you can choose. I would say it really depends on capacity and what you can crank out and how often you can create that core content. So, for me, I'm doing this. I do a training every week. And if we split each training into 7 posts, like on social media, for example, I know I'm talking a lot about social media, you're going to have a week's worth of content. But if you do a training a month, if I did a training 1 month, we'd have a post a week. No, not even, maybe 1 or 2 posts a week on social. We would have a blog. Right now we have a blog post every week that goes up, right? Which is great. If I did a training every day, we might have a blog post a day. So I don't know if that provides, there's a lot of opportunities. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think it more is about what can you do with your budget and your time and your capacity as it relates to your goals. And so that's important to think about too. What do I delegate content creation? I think this is supposed to say, how do I delegate content creation? Or when do I delegate content creation? As soon as possible. I would say leaders, if you're a CEO or growth leader, you have the opportunity to create core content and thought leadership and really put the best out there up front, and then really use a team and a process and use the content cascade to plug other people into it who can help express and repurpose that content over time and in different ways that you can't, right? And so really you need a process as well. And what is the process and how do you break that down? And so that's really is how you do it is through people and through process. What are the key roles you might need? I would say that you need someone who's going to create core content at the very top. And then you need probably a creative director or a content manager who's going to take that content and create with it, to repurpose it, curate, reformat, and supplement and tweak using tools, using AI, using their own expertise and skills. And what else? You might need a videographer potentially in there, or a designer to help, depending on your content creator skills, to really help create some of that foundational content and chop it up, and featured images and stuff like that are going to be important. How do we measure success? Oh, great question. I love this question. And there's, my answer is an answer that I heard from the Nike Global Head running coach when I did a marathon training program. And he said, when you run, measure success in as many ways as possible. And I love that. And I think that we can take that into digital marketing, into growth, into leadership as well, as like measure success in as many ways as possible. In our growth dashboard, we measure success in key ways. There are more metrics we could measure that we don't, but we have basically distilled the most important ones that we can, and that's usually 5 to 7 metrics per platform that we can measure to know what's successful or not. But I would say measure success in as many ways as you can. It's going to give you the most amount of data. Measuring is so important and often overlooked in digital marketing, which is mind-blowing to me. But I would also say you got to think of it on 3 levels. And I mentioned this earlier, but measure success on the company level. What are the company goals? And that's usually revenue, leads. That's some sort of top line metric. Measure results on the platform, Google, blogs, Instagram, whatever platforms you're working and creating content around. Measure on those levels to know what platforms are working. So you're looking at, is it giving us what we want? How do we get it to give us what we want? You're looking at, are these platforms working for us and giving us the results we want or connecting in the ways we want? You're also looking at the post level. And are these posts successful? Is our content connecting? Is our content working? Is our content engaging? And you're looking at what post types, what post times, what post styles, what post words, all of that works and what doesn't. And so I would measure on truly all of those levels. What if our content isn't getting engagement? Yeah. I think the biggest thing is it's probably not good. I think it's just not good. And there's something to say about posting, getting stuff out. And you're going to get people like Gary Vee who will just preach and preach and preach on just make stuff, make shit, get it out. It doesn't matter how good it is. And he's got a point, because we often overthink and wait too long and roadblock ourselves, and we don't create for too long. And part of that is just start creating, right? But that works. It doesn't work at the scale that we're talking about it. And so if you're looking at why is the stuff we're doing not working because we're already doing stuff, the question is more like, how could it be better? How could it be better? How could it connect more with your audience's desires? How could it be more relevant to their life? How could the messaging be dialed? Do they know that you're solving a problem? Is it in a format they want to consume? Is it the channel that they're on? I mean, these are all the questions to really dig in on. And but honestly, the bottom line is it's probably not good enough. How do I get quick wins and build sustainably? Yeah, you've heard me talk about how a content marketing and content programs are long term. They're multi-year things. You'll start seeing results within 90 days. If you run a program and you do all 3 levels of content, you'll start seeing results on day 1. You'll start seeing people see your stuff. But if you're looking at building and stacking and getting asymmetrical returns with less inputs over time, like, you are going to start really seeing some of the initial buddings of that within probably a quarter. But really, like, to see massive impact, to be like, this is crushing it. You're talking, a year you're going to start seeing some good results probably in a year, but where I've really seen massive momentum that like is hard to stop is like at the 3-year point. And I love how I heard this, Jesse Itzler, who founded, a bunch of companies, Zico Coconut Water, and his wife founded Spanx, and they've done so many things. But he said that a brand takes 8 years to build. And so, if you're looking at building a brand, you got to have about an 8-year runway, a national brand, 8-year runway. And if you're looking to build a content authority for that brand, you got like a good 3-year runway. And so got to be consistent for 3 years. But how do you have quick wins during that time? That's really the crux of this question. I think what we really need to address, and that is really creating content at all 3 levels: core, catalyst, and connection. Because if you're just creating core content, it's going to take a lot of time for it to build momentum and get to stack, right? You're only putting up 1 a week or 1 a month, or that's probably most common cadences. And to be able to crush on a platform, it's going to take a lot of time. But when you create 30 pieces of content a month, or 30 pieces a week, or 10 pieces a day, or whatever it is for you, through your catalyst and your connection content, you're driving people up to the core content. You're telling the platforms that you're serious, you're giving them more data, and you're getting more eyeballs on that additional content. And that's the way to get quick wins. And so it's a real big benefit of this content cascade is the quick win side of it, is you're building long-term and you're building short term. You're going to build sustainable long-term strategies, and you're going to also create opportunities for quick wins and short-term successes. Takeaways. Whew, that's a lot of content. If here we are, we're nearing the end. Hang with me. We've got takeaways. We've got some reflection questions, and I've got some a path forward. If you don't already know the right path forward, I've got some clarity for you and some ways that I could help you. The takeaways, if you take nothing else out of today, I want you to remember align to accelerate. Coordinated strategies are better than scattered tactics. The content cascade and the acceleration loop, that strategy and that system within the content blueprint done well are going to take you far, way better than let's get a post up today. Let's create another random piece of content. That's exhausting. Content compounds. Think long-term asset and stack successes. Content compounds. It really is. It's an investment, and you're going to get outsized returns if you stick with it. So don't forget that. And also, chaos is costly. Trust the process and profit from it. Again, if you jump in at step 3 and you start just creating content without alignment and activation, it's going to be more expensive. Yeah. And if you forget to measure or you decide not to measure, you're going to be very inefficient. And so run the system, run the strategy, trust the process. It'll work. Let's reflect. So the thing is that most companies that wait on this, they say, okay, we'll think about it, lose another year stuck trying to figure it out. And if you heard me earlier, 8 years to build a national brand, 3 years to crush content, to build that content authority, like you don't want to wait another year because you need to build. You need to start building now to get to start building on that process. The sooner you build, the sooner you're going to see results. And so don't just wait until you're desperate and you have to flip the switch on. So right now, I just pause and reflect. You don't have to do this, but if you have the time and you're digging this content, I want you to self-reflect, and I want you to think about where you're at and what you could do and this is really going to help you map out your own next steps. And if you're watching this, feel free to skip ahead if you want. I've got 3 questions, or pause if you want to write these down and really think about them. I know that's probably too many options. I'm just going to roll and you do you. All right. What are the dangers, opportunities, and strengths that you see today when it comes to content for your company and your brand? Dangers, opportunities, and strengths. And if you're doing content, you can look at it. What are the dangers, opportunities, and strengths of my current content? If you're not and you want to, you can think about what are the dangers, opportunities, and strengths of doing it. What do we have to work with? What are we up against? If you move forward and take action, what might success look like in 90 days? Like, say you run this model, you run the system, you run this strategy. What could happen in 90 days? What could happen? What's possible? If you don't, what will it cost you in the next 90 days? What sales, traffic, leads, opportunities, learnings, capabilities could you have that you won't if you do nothing? All right, next step. Option 1. You have one. The first option, you can take this if you want. It's to continue to guess your way through content and hope it works. You could choose that. You could, right? No. You could waste time on scattered efforts with no ROI. Does that sound pretty good? You can. It's an option. Also, you could just watch your competitors dominate while you stay stuck. Essentially, you could do nothing, and this is what you're going to get. Or you could work with me. You don't have to work with me, but I want you to. I would love to work with you if we're a great fit. I would love to invite you to a digital strategy workshop. This is done by me and my team. I actually run these. We do the 1.5 day in person in Scottsdale, Arizona. We love Scottsdale. You bring your team. It's $15,000. We open up 2 spots every month, and it's a blast. And we do some awesome stuff. Couple key things that I'm going to tell you about this. But first, This is the first step of your digital growth system. So you do this workshop. We are going to unpack your digital strategy, and you can run with it on your own. Or if you decide to hire us to implement that strategy into your business, which we do, we run the acceleration loop, bolt on a digital growth system, and crush for you. This is the first step towards that type of engagement and relationship. This $15,000 is a forward credit. So it goes full towards your implementation if you decide to keep working with us. And yeah, just as like we just pass it along because it's a key part of the whole process. And so we want you to see it as a ongoing experience, really, and we want it to be treated like an ongoing experience. And the last thing is we guarantee results. I believe in this workshop. I believe in the relationship. I believe in the program. I believe in the process so much that I will guarantee results. You'll get a 10x ROI on this or your money back. So I will give you the money back on this workshop if it does not deliver. And this would be if you run with it yourself, or if we run with it, either way, that is that's the guarantee. So this picture here, you're like, who are these people? I'm in the middle. We got John and Rebecca with me, and we hiked Piesta Peak before, early morning, August heat out here. We got up early, we did a hike and had a great time before we crushed a digital workshop. And had a great time. So if you're interested in this, go to wearestructure.com/start, learn more. You'll set yourself up for a discovery call with our team where we'll make sure you're a good fit. We'll talk about the workshop. We'll talk about you, and we'll get going. A little more specifically on the workshop, what you get out of it is you'll walk out with a bigger vision. You'll see how content fuels growth and market leadership for your brand. You're going to walk out seeing bigger. John actually, and we've heard this from other people too, but he walked out of the workshop and said, I have been doing this for 20 years and I feel like I know my business better than when I walked in this morning. And so he saw something he didn't see before. All right, strategic roadmap. You're going to align your content with business goals for impact. We're going to help you do that. You're going to map out your 10-3-1. You're going to have your business goals, and then you're going to see how that content that we create, which we'll talk about too, aligns for impact. You're going to get systemized execution. The roadmap will help you eliminate guesswork with really a scalable blueprint. Everything we do is like this content blueprint. It's a process, it's a system, and a strategy. Boom. We don't just do strategies. We don't just do tactics. We don't just do systems. We do integrated system and strategy you can run with. You're going to have clear next steps. So I'm going to give you an actionable plan for content that drives ROI. And you're going to walk away with that. And you can either run with that yourself, like I said, and create, or we'd be happy. We have a team on hand. We have a team we bolt on and we run a blueprint for you, or a digital growth system, and see great results. Some pictures. We have a fun time. So if you're on the fence, like, why would I do that? I'm just going to say it. Come to Scottsdale. It's sunny. It's warm. There's fun things to do. We can eat out. We'd go on hikes. We've done a wine tour that actually wasn't in Arizona. That was in Oregon with one of our clients, which was a great time. We did a wine tour. We always find something to do to make it fun. We always plan something that we connect. And this is the business's personal side. If you're still here, I'm just going to keep talking because you've stuck it out for this long. You must be interested. I mean, and we might be a good fit because we always find a way to connect. And I want to come alongside and not only push the business forward, push you towards your goals, but push you to see and grow and develop as a leader and as a person. And a lot of that's done in the fringe moments that aren't just in the boardroom. And so we like to create that time and space, and it's fun. And you really get to know one another when you work out together, when you eat together. It's just a great time for connection. All right. Next thing here is literally just, this is what you're going to see. Go to wearestructure.com/start. And you will land on this page. Click schedule your free session. It'll drop you down. You'll fill out a form, and then you will sorry, my brain just went blank. You will schedule on a calendar. You will schedule a discovery session. In this call, it's 1 hour. We will help you gain clarity on your biggest challenges. We will help you identify opportunities and really build out that roadmap for success. The point is that we want to make sure you're a great fit. We don't want you to waste your time with another agency that's not going to serve you. We want to crush it for you, and we want to make sure we can crush it for you. And we want to make sure that we can fit in what you're doing, and that you're going to fit with what we're doing, and that we can actually really win together. And so it's just a great time to learn and grow and see some stuff and make sure we're a great fit. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, for sticking out this. I hope that you've learned a lot. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, whatever platform you're on. And I hope to see you in a workshop soon.